morning, everyone. My name is Miss Destiny, and I am here today to present to you how to manage social anxiety. All right, so I am doing this presentation for the Summer Work Ready 2021 program. I'm so excited to present this lesson to you all, and I hope by the end that you learn more about social anxiety, learn more about yourself, and ways to cope. All right, so on today's agenda, we're going to talk about what anxiety is, symptoms of anxiety, types of anxiety and stress, stressful triggers, and how to cope or how to manage social anxiety. All right. So Miss Melissa will, in the end, provide you with some questions. If you all need some more information or just want to reach out to me, Miss Melissa will provide that information to you. All right. But I wish I can be here in person. I hope that you at least get something out of today's lesson. All right. But so let's begin. So I always like to start off with what is emotional intelligence? So when you hear this phrase, what is emotional intelligence? Let's share. What do you think that phrase means? Emotional intelligence. What does emotional intelligence mean? If intelligence means smart or knowledgeable, right? Ultimately, emotional intelligence means or refers to the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves and managing our emotions. And really, it's a way for us to express ourselves. So when someone says, I am emotional intelligent, that means that they are able to recognize their own emotions, right? If I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling anxious or if I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I'm able to communicate that, right? Let's look at this little illustration right here, right? 5 signs of high emotional intelligence, right? You are able to self-express, express your feelings, self-perception, interpersonal skills, meaning can you communicate? Can you talk about how you feel? Stress management, how you manage your stress or how to cope with it. It also, you're able to make decisions, right? Do you make decisions off of emotion, or do you sit and think about something before you make that decision, right? So that is having a high emotional intelligence, right? And the reason we're talking about this is because in order for us to understand social anxiety and different types of anxiety and stress, we have to be able to recognize those emotions. We have to have a high level of emotional intelligence, right? So don't worry, most of you are still young, and you have much more time to figure out emotional intelligence, right? You don't have to get it together right now. Sometimes I struggle with my emotional intelligence, right? I'm just like, I don't really know how I feel today, and that's okay. All right, so there's this word called cope, and you're going to hear me say it throughout this lesson, right? The word cope means is how you deal effectively with something, right? It's really how you manage the things that are happening around you. So if I say, how do you cope with stress or how do you cope with anxiety? What I'm really asking is, how do you manage it? How do you deal with it? Right? I know for me, there are different types of ways that I manage my stress and anxiety, right? But we'll talk about ways to cope with it, right? We'll talk about ways or healthy ways to deal with our anxiety and our stress. All right, but I just wanted to talk about emotional intelligence a little bit because in order for us to understand what social anxiety is, we need to be emotional intelligent. All right, so stress. What is stress? I'm going to talk about stress too, because stress and anxiety goes hand in hand. So in your own words, someone unmute themselves or write down their own definition of stress. What is stress? What do we think stress is? Would anyone like to share? What is stress? I like these little SpongeBob graphics. SpongeBob gives off so many emotions. What is stress? So stress, in my definition, right, is the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change, right? It also means a state of mental tension, worry caused by problems in your life, work, even school, right? In other words, it's something that causes strong feelings of worry or anxiety. So kind of stress and anxiety go hand in hand, like I said, right? Stress is really things that happen in our body, like sweating or different. We'll talk about behavioral things that happen to our body when we're stressed and anxiety. But really, this is what stress is. And then when we'll talk about anxiety, we'll really compare the two definitions. Like they both seem and sound the same, right? But the reason that we're talking about stress, right, is like I said, it goes hand in hand with anxiety. In order for us to have a healthy life, a healthy balance, we have to be able to manage our stress. And it can be difficult, especially at your age, right? Some of you are, I believe you're in middle school, or some of you are going to high school, right? Or all different ages, I believe, in summer work ready, right? There are so many stressful things that are happening in your life at this moment. So we have to be able to talk about that. We have to be able to talk about what stress is, what anxiety is. So now that we know what stress is, right? What is anxiety? What is it? What is anxiety? When you hear the word anxiety, what do you think? What is that? What is anxiety? So there are different types of anxiety, but we're only going to talk about social anxiety. So when I talk about anxiety, I wanted to bring out specific types of anxiety, because anxiety happens in all of our lives, really, right? It happens at any age, right? So we're not going to really get into the specifics of all of them, but I wanted to talk about a little bit about social anxiety, right? So separation anxiety. Separation anxiety. Does anyone know what that is? Anyone have any pets? Any dog owners or pet owners or dog moms? I'm a dog mom. So the reason that I bring that up, right, is because separation anxiety can happen in animals. Really, in a sense, it means, right, that when you separate maybe from your owner or from your family, you get feelings of anxiety, of worry. Are they going to come back? Are they going to feed me today? I'm scared. Who are these people, right? Separation anxiety. My dog doesn't have separation anxiety. He's old. He's just like, leave me alone. Another part of anxiety is phobias. Phobias meaning something that you're afraid of. Anyone have any phobias in here? I have a bunch of phobias, let me tell you. Anyone have any phobias here? I sure do. So I am one afraid of heights, right? But I love roller coasters. Don't ask me why. I'm afraid of heights. I have a fear of spiders, of bugs, really any type of bugs. I have a phobia of, right? But if I see a spider, maybe I start sweating or run or whatever, right? But that's a part of my phobia, part of anxiety, right? Anybody else have any phobias that causes their anxiety to go high? And there's this thing called social anxiety. Social anxiety. What is social anxiety? What is social anxiety? Anyone want to take a guess? So, social anxiety, right? In social anxiety disorder, it is a fear um, and anxiety that leads to avoidance, right? Meaning that you avoid things around you, right? And it really disrupts your life, right? It causes severe stress that can affect your relationships, your daily routines, right? Work, school, or other activities, right? It's really a fear of being around so many people, right? The fear of speaking in front of people, the fear of being judged or embarrassed, right? Does anyone know a celebrity that has social anxiety? I didn't add this on the slide, but I probably should have. There is a young celebrity that has social anxiety and has talked about it. I'll give you a hint. She's a singer, and I would say she's young too. She's a young singer. I don't really know how to give you a hint without giving her name up. Her name is Summer Walker. And I believe, I hope there are some fans here of Summer Walker. But Summer Walker has explained her fears of being around crowds, right? She has a fear of talking in front of people. And you would think because she's a celebrity, that she makes music, that this wouldn't be something that she's afraid of, but it is a real thing. Right. And even on social media, she was being cyber bullied too. If we're familiar with cyberbullying is, which I'm sure most of you are, right? She was cyberbullied because of her um, social anxiety, right? So it's not even just a fear, right? But it really disrupts your life. I mean, a lot of people who experience social anxiety aren't able to keep relationships in their lives because sometimes they, don't feel up to speaking to people or want to be around people. So imagine, you have a friend who has serious social anxiety and you love hanging out with them, but they don't want to hang out in public places because they're afraid, right? Could you imagine how that relationship would be or how it would be difficult to maintain that relationship, right? So it's important that we know these things, right? And we're being sensitive to how people feel, especially dealing with social anxiety. All right, very good. So that is a little bit about social anxiety, right? So really, I really want to know what causes you stress and anxiety. So my stress, right, may be different than your stress, right? Because you're in school, right? You're in this program, you know, what types of stress, especially at your age, um, or what causes you stress and anxiety? I really want to know these things. And I'm sure Miss Melissa would love to know too, like what is something that causes you stress and anxiety at your age? Do we want to take a moment to discuss that? What causes you stress and anxiety? So Here's some things that I wrote down, right? Family issues, right? Family issues. Depending on who we're living with, it can be hard, especially if we're living with our parents or our siblings. Some of us live with our little cousins or older cousins who can be annoying, right? But things that can cause stress and anxiety, I know for me, is definitely family issues, right? If things are going on at home, that can cause high levels of anxiety, right? And it can also trigger experiences of social anxiety, right? If you're having family issues, maybe you don't feel comfortable with talking to people, around you, right? Other things that cause stress and anxiety, violence. There is a lot of violence going on right now in the city of Philadelphia. And I always like to bring this up in the programs that I teach, right? Because it is a serious, serious thing. And if someone hasn't experienced it personally or firsthand, um, there are people who have, right? And so these can affect the people around you, even yourself. They can you can experience high levels of stress and anxiety, right? Which causes that ripple effect where it can affect your family too, right? So it is a real thing. And I always like to add this to my slide because I like to have conversations around it because we need to have those types of conversations, right? It's a real thing that's going on. Also, social issues, right? There are a lot of things that is going on socially, right? That can cause stress and anxiety, right? For example, COVID-19 is a social issue right now. And I know for sure, it has caused a lot of anxiety and social anxiety in people, right? I was having a discussion with my mom not too long ago, and she doesn't like to be around crowds anymore. Honestly, I don't like to be around crowds anymore either right now, right? With the issues of COVID-19 and wearing masks, it is a real issue right now, right? Because you're afraid of getting sick or ill, right? Worried about your family getting sick. So think about that. Think about that. It not only causes a lot of stress, right, or worry to become sick, but also social anxiety. You don't want to be around a lot of people right now, right? I know for me anyway. And also relationships, right? The people that you're around, right? And we're not just talking about relationships you have with maybe your family. We're talking about like relationships that you have with your friends, right? Maybe people at school, maintaining those relationships. How do you maintain relationships with people virtually? School's out. You want to be careful. You don't want to be around a lot of people because of COVID, right? So how do you maintain those relationships? Right? All of that can cause serious effect, can cause stress and anxiety and high levels of stress and anxiety. Right? So let's talk about some signs of stress and anxiety, right? Let's talk about the physical signs. So when you have social anxiety, things happen in your body physically. So let's talk about that. What happens in your body physically when you experience stress, anxiety, or social anxiety? When you have these feelings of anxiety in your body physically, what happens? Think about it. What happens in your body? I can name a bunch. So here are some things that I wrote down, right? Racing heart. How many of you experienced this? A racing heart, when something happens, something scary happens, right? Your heart starts to race, right? This is physical, right? This is happens physically in your body. Shaking hands or legs, right? High blood pressure, clenching your fists, headaches, tenseness, muscle spasms, indigestion, right? So these are things that happen physically in your body, right? Physically or outside of your body, right? But let's talk about it. Are there any other things that happen physically that you can think of? How about behavioral? What happens in your behavior when you're stressed out and when you're anxious? What happens? What happens to your behavior? What are some signs of some? What are some things that happens to people who have high levels of stress and anxiety? How do they behave? Here are some things that I wrote down. Changes in appetite. You don't always want to eat when you're feeling anxious or when you're stressed, right? Difficulty sleeping. How many of you experienced that? I know so many students who stay up till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody on this call right now stays up till 3 o'clock in the morning playing Call of Duty. I don't know. Somebody does. Forgetfulness. Do you forget things sometimes? How many of you have ever ran upstairs to grab something and then forget what you're about to grab? Like you're all over the place, like anxious. Oh, I gotta leave out. I'm gonna be late, and then you forget what you're supposed to do. Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Acting out. Acting out. I might be talking to somebody on this call. I don't know. How many of you act out when you're stressed out? Social withdrawal or avoidance. So we kind of talked about that. That's kind of goes hand in hand with social anxiety, right? People who experience high levels of stress and anxiety kind of withdraw from the things that they like doing, right? If they use social media a lot, sometimes they may withdraw from using social media. They may avoid being or going to parties or different things like that, right? Increased use of caffeine, loss of concentration, and mood swings. One day you're happy, one day you're angry, one day you're anxious, one day you're not so anxious, right? It happens. It happens. So these are some things that happens to you in your behavior when you're experiencing stress and anxiety. Any other suggestions? All right. So can anxiety be positive? So here's some things that I learned, right, as I was doing my research for this presentation, is that anxiety is not always bad. It's not always bad. Anxiety can motivate you to meet your goals, right? How many of you have made yearly goals this year, right? I did. Didn't really stick with them. But anxiety can motivate you, right? You want to get things done. You want to make sure that you're staying on top of things. So it can motivate you. Um, Also, the stress of getting of a deadline can motivate you to finish your assignment, right? I don't know who I'm talking to also on this call, but somebody waited to do their homework at the last minute. So some people honestly like doing that. They feel like the pressure and the stress gets them motivated to finish the assignment faster. Also, maybe a fire alarm can cause stress and anxiety and alert you to avoid danger, right? So anxiety is not always bad, right? And also, you ultimately learn more about yourself. And that goes back to emotional intelligence, right? That goes into emotional intelligence. You start to learn more about yourself, your emotions. How do I feel today? How do I manage that? How do I cope with that, right? All right, very good. So I'm going to briefly go over ways to manage stress and anxiety. Does anyone have any suggestions? So when you're feeling stressed or when you're experiencing maybe social anxiety or different types of anxiety, right? How do you manage your stress? How do you cope, right? That's the word cope again. How do you cope with stress and anxiety? What do you do to help those levels go down? So here's what I wrote, right? Exercise. Exercising is a good practice to use. I personally always start the exercise and don't keep going. I even joined a kickboxing class, y'all, and it didn't work out. I was like, this is good for a week, but then I got tired. But exercising is a good way to manage or cope with anxiety and stress, right? Eat healthy. That does not mean eating Takis or eating Doritos every day, right? Eat healthy. What you eat, right, is really going to affect your mental and your physical body, right? Practicing positive self-talk. And actually, I might add that to our next lesson, right? But really, positive self-talk is how do you talk to yourself, right? When you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling stressed, does your mind say, okay, I'm stressed out. I don't know if I can do it. I'm scared. I'm worried. Or do you practice positive self-talk by saying to yourself, you're going to get through this one step at a time. Maybe you can do one half today, one half tomorrow, right? That is positive self-talk. You're doing a great job, right? Limit negative people around you, right? Some of you may have friends that just trigger your anxiety and your stress. Cut those people off. You don't need friends like that who cause you stress. Surround yourself around friends who encourage you and are ultimately nice to you, right? Time management, get enough sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Get enough sleep. Sleep really does help. It really does. It really does help with stress and anxiety. Meditation is a good practice. Anybody meditating here? Meditating is a good practice. Art therapy, drawing, sketching. I'm sure there's some drawers in here, right? Painters. Also, ask for help. Never be too good to ask for help, right? In fact, I encourage everyone to ask for help if they're feeling too stressed and overwhelmed, right? If they feel themselves not wanting to engage with other people or feeling themselves or feeling not like themselves, right? Ask for help, reach out. Here's some self-care resources that you can use, right, to help manage your stress and anxiety. Headspace is my favorite one. Anyone familiar with Headspace? Headspace is a good app. It's an app that you can download on your phone and it plays meditation music. It is a good resource. I encourage everyone to download it, right? Also, let me see if I can move my little thing. Mindfulness cards. Mindfulness cards, we all know what mindfulness is, right? You can get these cards on Amazon, right? You can pick a card, and there are different exercises on there, right? Maybe on how to practice deep breathing, right? But these are some good resources. And also this little gadget right here in the middle. So this actually, anyone has ever heard of white noise? So white noise, right, is like the ocean or different sounds that are soothing, right? You can also find this on Amazon, and it helps to relax, to calm. Some people use it to sleep. I actually got to get me one. But this is a really, really good gadget to use. Gadget, who says gadget? All right, any questions? Any other suggestions? I'm sure you are giving out great suggestions right now. All right, so what I like to do is I always like to end with some true or false questions, or really some questions that get you all thinking, right? So this question is true or false. So here's what I'm going to do to make this more engaging. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, and you all are going to talk amongst yourselves whether the answer is true or false. All right, so hopefully Miss Melissa will pause the recording, and then you all can go back and forth on whether or not it is true or false, and then I'm going to give the answer at the end, okay? So the first question is, true or false? Stress and anxiety can seriously affect your gut health. Is this true or is this false? What I mean by gut, I mean like your digestive system. Is this true or is this false? What do we think? So the answer for this one is true. It is true. Research has found that people with high levels of anxiety and stress have problems with their appetite, has problems sometimes with gaining or losing weight, right? So stress and anxiety can really, really affect that. Super important, super, super important. All right, next question. Oh, here's a good one. Blank percent of people who are stressed stated it is due to texting. So what percentage do you think? Oh, here's a multiple choice. Is it A, 43%, B, 31%, C, 20%, or D, 50%? What do we think? What percentage of people who are stressed said it's because of texting? What do we think? So the answer for this one is 31%. 31%. And that may not seem like a high number, but it is still a significant number, right? And a lot of people said, research said that it is because, think about it, around the holidays, around times that you have to be more engaged with your family or friends. Keeping up with texting is hard, right? Especially for people who live far away. You gotta, make sure you text them happy birthday or happy Thanksgiving. Like, it is a lot. It is a lot. So during those times, especially during the holidays, texting can be stressful. So it can cause feelings of anxiety. All right, last question. Blank percent of people who practice yoga report feeling less stressed and anxious. Is it A, 85%, B, 70%, C, 60%, or D, 40%? What do we think? So the answer for this one is 85%. 85% of people said that practicing yoga helps with their anxiety. So I don't know about you all, but I would go buy my yoga mats and get to practicing some yoga if I'm feeling stressed, right? All right. Well, if there are any questions, if anyone has any other suggestions or like to add anything, please, please, please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, connect you to different resources, and hopefully we'll be able to meet over Zoom soon, and I can pop in during one of your lessons. All right. So I hope you all enjoyed our lesson today, talking about anxiety and stress. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. All right, everyone.